Good evening, class. How's everyone doing? This is Professor Vasquez from the University of the District of Columbia Community College. So this video is for my Contemporary Police Systems course. This is week 6. This is our last week. So congratulations, you guys have made it. All right. I'm very proud of each and every one of you. All right. Okay. So this week we will be talking about police brutality. Last week we spoke about racial profiling. Make sure you always have, your links up. Make sure you're covering the material. Make sure you're looking over the PowerPoint presentations. Make sure you're covering the literature. As an overview, we'll have an introduction, and we'll be going over 2 articles like we always do. All right, the first article is titled "The Culture of Policing," and the second one is "Police Brutality in the United States." All right. Also, don't forget that this week you do have a discussion board. You do have a quiz. And you do have a paper. So remember, everything is due by this Friday, okay? I know this week is a little bit short, but that's because this is the last week. All right, so class officially ends this Friday, and I plan to have your grades posted by Friday of this week, okay? So make sure you plan accordingly. All right, so let's get started. What is police brutality? So police officers, we're trained to exercise the minimum amount of force necessary to carry out our assigned duties, meaning that when we issue force, it has to be in relation to the subject action, okay? So you have a risk perception, you have an officer response, and then you have the subject action, which is a triangulation of the 3, right? So whatever that officer perceives on that subject action is to determine how an officer is to respond. So if you have someone yelling, right, officer should probably yell back, right? If you have someone getting physical, you might need to use some defensive tactics, right? So there's a lot of tools in the tool bag, but so what police brutality is when it does not match the subject action, right? So an example is you're yelling as a police officer, I come up and I smack you to shut up. That is police brutality, okay? So again, that is a simple definition. Obviously, in the line of work of policing, things are real hectic, okay? And we're gonna get into that a little bit later. So how does police brutality occur? All right, so 9 times out of 10, I want you to keep this in mind. If we were in class, I would do an exercise that I always do. Has anybody ever been in a fight? What happens when you're about to fight? Maybe it's just me, but my hands get sweaty. I start crying, tears come down my face, right? Because I know I'm about to get into something, right? So as a police officer, imagine you have that adrenaline pumping, boom, 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 right? And Lord forbid that you have to discharge a lethal round, and you have to be on target. Don't slip up. Right? Because now we have social media. Got people yelling at your face, probably throwing some bottles at you, punches being thrown. And, you have to be spade tight, right? You have to meet that appropriate amount of force necessary, again, to carry out your assigned duty, right? So that is how police brutality occurs, right? Again, emotions are high, adrenaline's rushing. If you like me, your hands are probably shaking, right? So we need a lot of training. Okay, but why is police brutality so detrimental? All right, so I want you to consider this. What happens when one of these videos go viral, right? We just saw everything that happened with George Floyd, right? How many riots did that cause? Not only that, but then what does that do in between the relationship of police around the nation and then their relationship with people in the community? All right, so let's get into the first article. It talks about the murder of George Floyd. I know we've all seen the video. Have 4 police officers on 1 man. Individual had his knee on his neck for 8 minutes while unfortunately George Floyd was telling him, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. My takeaway from it, as soon as someone requests medical attention as a police officer, that's what you're supposed to do. You're not certified as a medical expert. So that's why you call EMS. You call ambulatory services, someone that could provide that diagnosis. All right, and just let the man sit out. Let him sit out, okay? You want to yell, just sit on your butt. You know what I mean? Have him sit down, make sure he's breathing. When ambulatory services arrives, They provide the diagnosis and then you proceed from there. All right. Why this amount of okay, so one of the things that the article was talking about is because of police brutality. Why is it this amount of protests, right? It didn't happen after Rodney King, right? So why is it now? So I have to believe that the continuous police brutality videos, right? The constant, the enduring videos that the anguish that this causes, that is why there's so many riots and there's an outcry now, right? And so many people are coming out and finally speaking out when people should have been speaking out earlier. All right, so there was a poll that said after killing of Eric Garner, everybody remembers that in New York, big individual, was being choked out by an NYPD officer, was using a method that was not allowed. All right, so it said that after his death, 33% of Americans felt police would use excessive force against black people than white people. After the killing of George Floyd, that is now 57%, okay? So one thing I want you to keep in mind with these police brutality incidents, why is it so capturing now? Why is it so constant? Well, remember that technology has increased. Okay, so it's not that it wasn't going on before, but now we have these smart devices, smart watches, smart TVs, smart phones, right? So things are able to go viral and you can go live at any time, okay? So there's two theories that this article identifies in relation to police brutality. Number one, there's a few bad apples, okay? So, there's always going to be police officers that spoil the bunch, okay? There's no way to identify a racist police officer, okay? Recruiting can only do so much. The code of conduct by police officers can only do so much. Supervision by other police officers can only do so much. All right, so what we're talking about here is that no matter what, it could be 99 police officers out of 100, but there might be that one that might use police brutality or racial profiling, okay? All right, so the second one, and probably a lot more people agree with this one, is that there's systemic racism that bleeds into the police department. So if you look at your high density areas where there's mostly minorities, where there's no employment, where there's no opportunities, there's probably going to be more conflict there. That's going to create a greater police presence that will ultimately result in what we believe as police brutality. So it's systemic, right? Whether it be whatever major city, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Chicago, and Boston, okay? All right, so going on to the second article, police brutality in the United States. All right, so this gives you a little bit more information on exactly what police brutality is. The unwarranted, excessive, and often illegal use of force. All right, so illegal. Remember that there has to be a jury. There has to be guidelines and procedures to exactly identify, okay, so what is illegal? Forms of police brutality have ranged from assault and battery, mayhem, torture, murder, okay? But it could be a little bit more than that. And that's what I want you to keep in mind. All right, what if someone just keeps harassing you? I keep getting pulled over, right? Or I'm getting pulled over for a pretextual stop, something that I don't believe. You want to tell me my headlight is out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun is out. What is that about? All right. Some broader definitions of police brutality also encompass harassment, intimidation. Okay. Police officers lying to you, maybe saying you have to open your door when you don't have to. Maybe requesting identification for no reason. All right. Other forms of mistreatment, right? And what's very sad is that you really have to be attuned. You have to be hip. You have to know your rights. You have to know when you are in the right and when you're in the wrong. Americans of all races, ethnicities, ages, classes, genders have been subject to police brutality. So I know, yes, there is a big war from what it seems like within the black community and police officers, but believe me, it goes far beyond that. All right, so we're talking about Mexican people, Italian people. Everybody remembers 9/11 and the Muslim community, right? How they felt afterwards. Jewish people, homosexuals, transgender. So again, police brutality goes far beyond, to everyone else. All right. Lastly, we're going to touch on this because this seems to be the topic. All right. So there's key factors for the predominance of police brutality against African Americans. All right. So one of the theories is that most police departments are mostly white. So one of the biggest things for takeaways from Ferguson is, how are you going to have an all-white police department policing an all-black community? That makes no sense. You have to have diversity. You have to pull from the community to know your community. All right. Similar, leading off of that notion is prejudices. All right. So if you have an all-white police department policing an all-black community, all right, what beliefs, what favoritism, what notions are you going to have, right, before you even post out, right? Because you don't know them, right? So prejudices will bleed over. All right, guys, that's all I have for this video. I have another one coming soon. Thank you very much.